Welcome back everyone to Bernie Man's Gaming Vault. Today we're diving into one of the OG beat 'em ups that helped define a genre, Double Dragon. But not just any version, we're taking on Double Dragon on the SEGA Megadrive, or the Genesis if you're on the other side of the pond. Now this game is kind of a weird legacy. Some people remember it fondly, some not so much, and honestly there's a lot to unpack. I grew up with the Megadrive and this was one of those games that always felt like it should be great. It had the name, it had the look, but it also had some weird quirks that stuck with me over the years. So grab a drink, maybe even a knuckle sandwich, and let's take a look into Double Dragon on the SEGA Megadrive. Double Dragon originally came out in arcades in 1987, developed by Technos Japan, and it was a massive deal. Like, people lined up to play it. It had that gritty urban brawler vibe. Two martial artist brothers, Billy and Jimmy Lee, beating the crap out of street thugs to rescue a kidnapped girl. Classic setup, simple, but it worked. Now, because it was such a hit, it got ported to just about everything. The NES, the Atari, the Master System, and eventually in 1992, the Mega Drive. Now here's the thing, 1992 is pretty late in the game for a port of a 1987 arcade title. By then we already had Streets of Rage, Final Fight, Golden Axe. Sega had its own brawlers that arguably surpassed Double Dragon in almost every way. So you kind of have to wonder, why bother? Well, for starters, Double Dragon had name recognition. It was iconic, and for some of us, there was still this nostalgia itch that needed scratching. But then this game landed on the Mega Drive. It definitely came in swinging. This version of Double Dragon is, and I'm going to say it, janky. Not unplayable, but it has that stiff, almost robotic feel to it. You walk forward, you punch, you kick, you jump. The basics are all there, but compared to the silky flow of something like Streets of Rage 2, it feels more like you're controlling animatronic karate robots. You've got the standard attacks: punch, kick, jump kick, elbow smash. The weapons here too: bats, whips, knives, and honestly, they're fun. But the hit detection can be wildly inconsistent, as you can see from some of this gameplay. Like, one minute you're cracking skulls and the next minute you're swinging a thin air while a Bobo just shoulder charges you into another dimension. And that brings me to the enemy AI, which is both dumb and cheap. Enemies will either just stand there doing nothing, or they'll suddenly decide to chain like 3 unblockable attacks together and throw you in a pit. There's just no in between. One thing I do give the game credit for, it's co-op. 2-player mode is always more fun and definitely makes this one a bit more bearable. If you've got a friend with the patience of a monk, playing through this together can still be a laugh, especially if you end up fighting each other at the end. Classic. Talking visuals and graphically, it's alright, it's not ugly, but it's definitely not pushing the Mega Drive's limits. The sprites are big and they kind of resemble the arcade versions, but everything feels a little off. Like, the animation is missing frames, movements aren't fluid, it's all a bit stiff. The environments are straight out of the 80s arcade handbook. Industrial zones, grimy streets, weird temples, you know the vibe. But there's this dull kind of muddy colour palette throughout the game. It doesn't pop like Streets of Rage or even Golden Axe. It's like they ported the arcade art but didn't quite optimize it for the Mega Drive's strengths. Now the sound. The music is fine. You know, some of those classic Double Dragon tunes are in there, but the Mega Drive sound chip isn't doing it many favors. You can tell it's trying to emulate the original, but it ends up sounding like a cheap knockoff sometimes. And the sound effects, you get a few meaty oafs and whacks, but they don't really land with any impact. There's just not a lot of oomph behind the punches, and kind of rubbish for a beat 'em up, to be honest. Now, one of the weird things about this version is how stripped down it feels. The level layouts are shorter, the enemy variety is low, and the boss fights are pretty underwhelming. It's like the game is constantly running on fumes. There are also some notorious bugs and glitches, enemies clipping into walls, hitboxes that disappear, and moments where your character just stops responding for no reason. So where does Double Dragon for the Mega Drive sit in the grand scheme of things? Honestly, it's historical curiosity. If you were there in the early 90s and you didn't have an arcade nearby, this might have been your only way to experience that classic Double Dragon vibe at home. but it's not the definitive version, not even close. The NES version weirdly has more charm and polish, and the arcade version is still the gold standard. And if you just want a great 16-bit beat 'em up, go play Streets of Rage 2. But this is a big but. There's something undeniably cool about Double Dragon. It helped lay the foundations for the brawler genre. Billy and Jimmy Lee are still iconic characters, and even this kind of janky Mega Drive form, there's still a flicker of that 80s arcade magic. Alright, so that's it for today's look back at Double Dragon on the Mega Drive. Was it perfect? Not even close. But it's part of a beat 'em up history. As much as this game wasn't as polished as the arcade version, I still really enjoyed it on the Mega Drive. Used to play a lot of 2-player co-op with my mate, and even to the point where we enjoyed the game so much, when we weren't playing the game and we were out on a nice summer's day, we played Double Dragon in real life in the local playground, walking around, pretending to beat up baddies. Just pure kid fun heaven. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button please. And also, if you enjoy what's being on the channel, please hit that subscribe button as well, please. It really helps the channel grow and helps the videos get pushed out. And let me know in the comments, what was your favourite beat 'em ups? And do you have any weird memories of playing Double Dragon as a kid? I'd love to hear them. So until next time, look after yourselves and keep gaming.